This conference will now be recorded.
Hello there. I'm Jessica Martin. I'm here today to talk with you further about creating a dental team that thrives. And this is part 2 of this webinar series. We will get started. Okay. So a little background about me and my training. If you did not attend part 1 of this webinar series, I actually have a master's degree in school psychology and school counseling. And so I spent a lot of years helping out kids that were struggling in school with a range of issues from ADHD to autism to Down syndrome, sensory disorders. And so that's really what led me into the understanding of the dental experience even more so. I've also served as a director of special education because I have my administrative license. And so my background in psychology really pairs well with the world of dentistry. My husband is a dentist, and we purchased a practice in Eau Claire, Wisconsin just about 10 years ago, and it is called Martin Dental. And I've been really heavily involved in the practice for the last 5 years. And then most recently, I developed a consulting business called Martin Management, where I help other dental practices to replicate the success that we've had with our practice, and more specifically regarding the dental spa approach. But that is a different webinar. So if you would like further information about that, certainly let me know. My family is pictured there at the right, and we have 2 beautiful little kids, and they keep us very, very busy. So just a review of part 1 in case you missed it. So we talked about establishing values, defining roles, encouraging teamwork, having a bonus system, and then also utilizing a strengths finder assessment. And I've got a picture over there on the right of our little board that helps keep us on track at our office. It's really just for our team to see. Patients don't see it. We've got some of our values listed at the top. I like to put like a little quote on the left bottom side there, and then on the right are some ideas for the team for ways that they can help to contribute to the bonus system, and then our goals, they're listed at the bottom. So in case you missed the previous webinar, certainly go back to some of that, because there's some really great strategies that we worked through in part 1 as well. So for today, part 2, we're going to talk about morning meetings, team building, annual reviews, hard conversations, and supporting a positive culture in your office. So first things first, morning meetings. I recommend doing morning meetings at least twice a week. In our office, we actually do them on Mondays and Wednesdays because those are days that we start seeing patients at 8 a.m. So we schedule our morning meeting at 7:30 a.m. Gives us ample time to get through the schedule and whatnot and get through what we need to, mostly before patients get there. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, our office actually opens, or we start seeing patients at 7 a.m. Patients really like that, just having some extra hours there before their workday might start. And so we don't have meetings on those days just because it would be really early for our team to get there. But the 2 times a week works really well. And what we start with is reviewing the schedule, because we've noticed that, well, from the doctor's perspective, my husband really likes to get that out of the way to make sure that he feels prepared for the day. So this is where you're going to really go through and make sure, the appropriate information is in there, like you're doing the services that are in there, the amount of time makes sense that you've allotted for that, and kind of look for anything that might come up as an issue throughout the day in the schedule. This is a place where you could say, oh, remember so-and-so's husband passed away a few months ago. Let's remember to acknowledge that. And just those little things that when you're all together as a team, you can put your brain on it and really make sure you're setting yourselves up for a really great day. So that's definitely an important aspect of the morning meeting. You're addressing any concerns that there might be overall. And in terms of who runs the meeting, we have our office manager run it. And so she types up an agenda for those meetings. And if there's anything that comes up throughout the week, team members can let her know, hey, add that to the morning meeting. So we had a situation occur recently where our assistants were seating really young patients, like a 2-year-old, before doctor was ready to see them. And although that's like our normal policy is that get the patient seated as soon as possible, get them comfortable, put all their spa amenities in place. For really little ones, it's hard to pull them out of the waiting room where they're playing with toys and whatnot and put them in the treatment room to then sit there for a few minutes even and wait for doctors. So we kind of talked about it briefly up front, like, oh, maybe we should look at that a little bit differently and wait to see those really little ones until doctor's ready to see them. That way there's not as much time, in that small treatment room space to keep he or she occupied. So that was something, it was like, okay, let's add that to the morning meeting. That's an overall issue that we can talk through as a big group about how we want to handle that. The other thing that's really important with regard to the morning meetings is doing what we call weekly wins. And what this is it's a way for every person on the team to share something that happened the week prior that really they felt great about, that they felt was a win. Maybe it was something they did personally for a patient or just a great experience. And that really sets a positive tone. We actually just do weekly wins on Mondays for the sake of time. But it really starts off the week on like a really positive note because it's so easy to focus on things that aren't going well and really let's celebrate those things that are going great. And then this is also a time for building rapport with the team. So I know my husband had expressed to me before we were doing these morning meetings, like I have a hard time like checking in with everybody and saying, hey, how was your weekend? Or, hey, how, what's going on with this or that? And this is a great time to kind of just, at the end of the meeting, I recommend just do a little chit chatting if the patients aren't there yet and really, get to know each other better and see what everyone's up to. It's a nice time to do that as well. And usually there's not much time for that, maybe 5 minutes at most. But even just that is enough for everybody to feel a little more bonded and connected. The next thing is team building. So work is so much better when we like each other, when we're with people that, that make us feel good. And so a way to really help your team to bond and to like each other is to do things outside of the work day. If the only time they interact with each other is at work, I mean, sometimes that works okay, but a lot of times it takes some of those extra bonding opportunities to really solidify those relationships. So I just have pictured here a few things that we've done with our team. On the top left there, we volunteered at a local food pantry and we prepared a meal for the homeless and served it to them. And I mean, it's just such a wonderful way to bond with one another and feel like you're doing something really positive. On the top right, we took the team bowling and you can see they're being silly, stretching beforehand and whatnot. Bottom right there, we live on a lake. We're lucky enough to live on a lake. And so we took our team out on our boat and we do fun things like that because we want them, they're a part of our family. We want them to feel that and to be, welcome in our home and whatnot. And then the middle picture there is just us, taking a professional team photo, but you can kind of tell we all like each other and have a good time. And, it's important to keep these extra outings professional because you don't want to blur those lines, but really, create a work family, create an atmosphere and a group of people that you really like and that you want to be with because, gosh, you spend a lot of time at work. It's really much more enjoyable when you like one another. All right, let's next talk about annual reviews. So these are important because this allows you really a specific time in the year to reflect on improvements and areas that might need improvement. You could certainly do, 6-month reviews. We found that to be kind of tedious because they take a lot of time and usually we're able to address issues that arise as they arise. So we don't feel that we need to do them more frequently, but certainly having a review in place at minimum annually is really great. And I recommend blocking time in the calendar a month before that's coming due for review because it's just hard, everyone gets busy and so you'll forget. I mean, it's just like patients with their 6-month cleaning, they're like, wow, I feel like I was just here. You'll kind of forget that review is coming due unless you put it somewhere where you'll remember to schedule it out in advance. And then this is also a time to ask your team for feedback. It's really important, I think, as a business owner and a leader and someone that has a team that they're employing is to really be open to what your team might have to say to you, whether it's maybe suggestions for you, things you might need to be doing differently. But if they feel heard and valued, they're going to perform better in general. So be open to that feedback about what your team might need from you as well. We usually schedule an hour for these annual reviews. Sometimes they don't last that long, sometimes they go longer, but we just want to really, focus on applauding that team member for what they do well. Hopefully it's mostly positive, and then obviously utilize it as an opportunity to address any issues. And hopefully it's not the first time that you've discussed any of those positives or negatives, but at least it's a time to, train you to write it down. Like, we've been working on this with so and so, and they've made some improvement, but we still need to see this or whatnot. It's just a way to kind of create that document trail. So if you do need it later, it's written down somewhere. Tough conversations, and sometimes those reviews are where these occur, but they probably, should occur more frequently than that, because there's things that pop up that just need to be addressed. So I recommend not letting problems fester. The longer that we try to push something down that's bothering us, even if it's something really silly to you, acknowledging that it's silly, have the courage and be vulnerable enough to say, this is my story, this is what I'm telling myself about this situation, and I know it sounds really silly, but could you da 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 da, and so most people are really open to that, as long as you're nice about it and you can maybe acknowledge how ridiculous it is. They're happy to modify what they've been doing that's really simple. That's maybe a pet peeve of yours. And I always recommend with these tough conversations to start and end with a positive, idea, so really try to come up with a way that you felt that, that they've done something really well. Put in the negative, kind of use it as a sandwich approach, and end with a positive, because you want them to leave the conversation not feeling terrible, unless you're doing, unless you're terminating somebody, then it's maybe a little bit different. But with the positive sandwich, you want to be genuine, obviously. So you want to find things that are specific, that the person doesn't just feel like you're throwing, nonsense at them to try to give them this, this negative piece of feedback. And then make a plan. If you need to have a tough conversation, don't try to do it at the start of the workday. It's probably going to ruin both your days. Find a time when it won't affect your business quite as much, and make a plan for what you're going to say. Maybe bullet out some points that you want to make, so that you start to get into that conversation and blood starts flowing and you might get emotional or angry or whatever it is. You can make sure you hit on those points that are important. And you can utilize the review process for this as well, reflecting back on a review, or utilizing that time of a review to have that tough conversation. And then the hire slowly and fire quickly bullet. If someone isn't working well in your office, you're doing them a disservice by keeping them with you. So let them find out what they're great at, and let them go and let them thrive in something different that they will be great at, because everybody has a gift, and if things aren't working well for you, chances are they feel that too, and they're going to be better suited somewhere else. So take this opportunity and approach, because it's much easier to let people go when you have the mindset that you're actually setting them free to do great things that they're meant to do. You're ending something for them, but that's opening the door to. All right, work culture. So support a positive work culture and expect nothing less. So really this goes back to addressing problems promptly. So if you're handling issues right away, it doesn't allow the whole culture to crumble. So, I think sometimes what happens is we might have a bad egg or somebody that's just not performing, that's really frustrating others. And what happens is that person really grinds on the people that are amazing on your team. And that can unfortunately create really an icky work culture where people don't enjoy being there because of so and so. And you can lose really good people that way. I really think, going back to part one with having a bonus system, that can really help keep morale and teamwork high, because it's very teamwork focused, and you can very kind of readily see who isn't performing or who isn't pulling their weight. The other thing is having those office values back in part one. That really should keep everyone on track. I mean, if they don't share in those values, that's going to be pretty evident once you're expecting that those values are supported. And so that's where you have to make a decision of, they don't support my values, then this isn't the right fit. So that's where that fire quickly, hire slowly comes in. You can train skills, but you cannot train heart. So always keep that in mind. And then last but not least, I'd like to share some results in case you missed part one. Just these are results from our practice in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And so I think, having a great team really feeds into all of these things. Some of our success, a lot of our success has to do with, how we've been able to differentiate and really create an amazing patient experience with the dental spa approach. But I truly know that if we were doing that approach with a team that wasn't solid, with a team that didn't share in our values, with people that didn't care, it wouldn't be executed well. We wouldn't be as successful. So our team is huge in this. We've quadrupled our new patient monthly averages. We actually have had to kind of cap how many new patients we see in a month because otherwise we can't keep up with the other work that needs to be done for our existing patients. We've increased our yearly production by over $400,000 consistently. We've received the award as the best dental practice in our community 4 years in a row, and we just have a full schedule. We don't have holes where, the doctor's sitting around, and obviously that is production. So that's huge. We've been able to actually increase fees. We're only in network with Delta as a premier provider. We're not taking huge adjustments. We're able to really keep our schedule full with really quality patients that value great dentistry. And then we have a really calm workplace environment because we have a really cohesive team that we keep the dynamic of really positive, and so we don't have staff, coming through like a revolving door. So that obviously really helps with the success of the practice. Just the fact that you're attending this webinar shows you're invested in having an incredible team, and having these strategies will contribute greatly to making your team even better. I just know it. So that concludes the webinar today. It was a little shorter than part one, but it's truly my mission to help us all do dentistry great for patients and help that patient experience be amazing about what we talked about today. My email's there, that's my direct phone number, my website. I'm on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. So I thank you so much for your time today, and continue being great. Have a good one.